but having some expectation outside of there's nothing planned for these summer months is going to be really helpful for you and your child. I think it's really great to talk about goal setting. What do you want to learn about?
Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist,
and Jen Harris, an interior designer who have teamed up
to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings.
Join us as we discuss and declutter all of the stuff that keeps us stuck.
Learn to intentionally create environments with improved function and design that cultivate peace of mind. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I'm Courtney Huckabee.
And today we're talking about summertime.
So ready for summer.
Summertime. Yeah, so summertime is just around the corner. And with summertime, that means kids are out of school, means daily routines shift, and all the things that go along with being at home all day.
With others. Yeah, this is, it's really great to have the school system and have the school routine, but sometimes we need a break from all of that rigor and routine. But then it's trying to find out, well, what is our routine for the summer? How do we navigate that? How much routine do we want? How much flexibility do we want? And if our kids aren't doing academics, how are they spending their time outside of that?
Yes. So one thing I have found for us, so we are in Texas, which means summer isn't always about going outside and playing because it is so hot. So we have to accommodate for being inside still, and what can we do to keep, the I'm bored or what do I do, kind of feelings that kids are inevitably going to happen, but how can we mitigate those? So one thing that has worked really well for my family is coming up with a summer schedule and like a daily routine, which I will show here briefly, but this is just something I made. And so what we do is I like to get a little extra sleep. I'm very excited about not having to get up at 6:30 a.m. to start making sandwiches and get everybody moving. So for me, I give myself a break during the summer. So I'm like from 7 to 8 a.m. if you're up at this time. Go get yourself some breakfast. You can have your screen time, and I'm just going to slowly work my way into the day, especially because for myself, I am more of full-time home caregiver, and so I will be with them all day. And so I know for me to be in a good mindset for them for the day, I need to take some time
self-care
for myself. So I'm like, you guys go take care of yourselves for the first hour of the day. And then from 8 to 9, it's really them getting ready for the day. And they don't necessarily need a whole hour, but it gives the flexibility, because inevitably what will happen is I would be like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then I become more of like the taskmaster, because I'm very timeline oriented and I don't like being late, and I want people to be ready to go. So giving them the independence to take your time, manage your time. And so you need to make your bed. We don't normally have them make their beds during the school year because it's just too hard to get out the door for school, but that is an expectation of the summertime. You will make your bed, do your same things, brush your teeth, get dressed, do your hair. And then from 9 to about lunchtime, we do a family activity. Aww. So we have to get out early in the morning because of the heat. So we try to go to a playground, or maybe if we're going to the zoo for the day, that's when we would leave and go do those activities. And then we have lunchtime, maybe while we're out, or we come home for lunch. And then it becomes afternoon time. So we kind of block it off. Morning is like family activity. Afternoon is more of our structured playtime. So then after lunch, we do, we can have an afternoon, well, the snack comes later, but we try and separate it to playtime as well as some structured learning. So in the summertime, I don't want my kids to completely regress from what they learned from the previous school year, right? And it's so easy to fall to those habits of just, oh, we'll do it another day, we'll do it another day. But we have a specified reading time. So we have them read for 20 minutes. My youngest son isn't a complete reader yet, so I might sit down with him and read, or it's going through picture books. We also do we call summer learning. So every summer I challenge my kids, like, what is it you want to learn? And so one kid usually picks soccer, or one might pick tennis, or I want to learn to draw something. And so we set a timer and it's like, okay, 20 minutes of summer learning time, anything that you want to get better at. And then we also do like one school worksheet or something, some sort of learning, structured learning where they're drawing or writing, using hand skills, doing math, just something different every day. And that usually takes 5 to 20 minutes, but normally like 10. So that takes about an hour of time to do like their summer learning, which really isn't a lot in the whole grand scheme of the day.
Hmm.
And I know we've talked before about, task and reward, but, they get to do something they want to do with their summer learning, and I'm making sure academically they're still staying where they need to be. So I found it's a really good balance for our family. Then after they have completed their summer learning, then I just give them a list where it's like complete 2 of these. So it's doing something that's not screen time. It's some sort of independent play. So it might be blocks, magnetiles, playing outside, playing pretend, Play-Doh, puzzles, painting. We might play a board game, create something. So just trying to get, all the synapses in their brain working and doing different things that we don't normally have time for necessarily on every school day. So again, it's breaking it up with morning family activity, lunch, learning time, usually the snack goes in between, playtime, and then after they've completed these things, then they can do some screen time after that. And then that's usually until dinner's ready or until mom or dad says it's time to get off. So we found that that's been a really good balance and structure for us. It gives us flexibility, but it gives them expectations, because if not, I always hear, well, when do I get to play my video games? When do I get screen time? When do I get to do this? I'm bored. And it's just like, go to the list and figure it out. So
I'm hearing a lot of really great stuff, and it's not
it's
just
very long-winded.
the routine, but I'm hearing we have an expectation of the summer. And, if you have elementary student ages like Jen has, preschool ages like I have, middle school or high school, you can really adapt this. And so it doesn't have to be as rigid as, this time and this time. But as you're thinking of your summer, whether you have children or not, like, what do I want to use this time for that I don't always get to have in the typical school year? And so with that, you may be saying something like, well, for my teenager, maybe I want them to get a part-time job, or maybe I want them to help more with some of the life skills and the needs around the home. Or maybe they need to learn how to do some cooking, or they're going to help mow the lawn, or I want them to learn a new hobby. Maybe they're going to do a drawing class, or they're going to read different literature than they usually read. But having some expectation outside of there's nothing planned for these summer months is going to be really helpful for you and your child. I think it's really great to talk about goal setting. What do you want to learn about? So one kid may want to learn soccer. Great. So we're going to go do some soccer skills in the backyard, or you're going to, learn about some soccer rules, and we're going to practice those together.
And I will say, some of the things my kids want to learn about, I have no idea.
Sure.
But there's great YouTube tutorials, especially like how to draw certain things or rules of certain sports that I don't necessarily have strengths in. So, and new skills and drills to run. So that's also been really helpful.
Yeah. But I really love the idea of there's expectation and different routine outside of where we have been. And I think it's really great if you're maybe a teacher or administrator in the schools, you don't have children, you're an empty nester, or for some reason, you're very fortunate to have independent time. Congratulations.
Independent time. I'm going to start putting that in my self-care. Just independent time.
You definitely need to do some recharging. You definitely need to do some self-care, but maybe this might be the time where I look at, my closet, and this might be a reframe reclaim project for June. I'm going to go through the closet. I'm going to go through my clothes. Or maybe I really missed out on a lot of friend time. Let's make sure that I have a goal to go to coffee or call a friend once a week, or, connect with other people that have free time right now. So I love this idea of coming up with expectation, and then coming up with that accountability. So how do you keep your kids accountable if you do have children? Whenever you have this list, you have this routine, how do you follow through with that?
So the way I have it designed, and you can see it if you're watching on YouTube, or I'll post it somewhere else, but I have checklists on there. So they're able to go off and just check what they've done, um, what's left, and I have in the past. I haven't done it this year because I tend to update it every summer as they age out of certain playthings. But I usually laminate it, and then they each get their own color of dry erase marker and can check off what they've done. The other thing is I also want flexibility in it. So I do it as blocks of time. So there might be a day where we're doing an afternoon family activity instead of the morning. And they know that, well, then learning time's flipped here because we're doing the other thing later, right? So it helps them to build some resilience with flexibility and adaptability, but knowing that these are the expectations, right? And so I can easily say, well, if they come up to me and they're like, well, I want to do screen time. It's like, oh, well, what did you do for your learning? What did you do for this? And earlier on, it was definitely more hands-on with me helping them over and over again. But now that that expectation has been set for several summers, they know what to do and they can easily go and be more independent with what they're doing. Another thing that has really helped with that and ease my mind, it's a little bit more work up front, but really looking at our home environment and what systems do I need to make sure are in place in order for everything to start flowing for the summer.
Yeah.
So again, like for them getting up early in the morning so I can sleep in, it's making sure that what they need is easily accessible, right? So they have access to their breakfast foods. There might be a snack station that's out so they can easily go access their snacks. There's, they know where extra toothpaste is. So if they run out, so they're not waking me up.
Because they're always brushing their teeth first thing in the morning.
One of them actually is. My youngest man, he's ready in 5 minutes. He's like teeth brush, like he sleeps in his clothes for the next day because he does not want to waste time having to get dressed.
Yes, that's 2 more minutes of screen time, 2 more minutes of fun time, 2 more minutes of sleeping.
But that has really helped me, is making sure those systems are in place. Do you have any systems that you switch out for your son?
I do not work in the school systems. I am not a at-home mother, house parent of sorts. So our routine is fortunately continued. So with that though, is I try to take more time away from my work to spend with him. And so we might do something like, mom will take off Fridays, or we're going to do something special on Saturday. But I have found that I'm shifting systems, like you said, to make it more accessible for him to be more autonomous, more independent. And I think it's so important, if you do have children, to help them learn these life skills. And summertime is a really great time to start integrating these more, whether it's learning how to, get their dirty clothes and put them in the hamper, or bringing their hamper to you, or learning how to, stack dishes into the dishwasher, learning how to help take the trash out to the curb. I think these are really great ways to instill some of those life skills, whether you have a young child or an older adolescent, almost young adult. It's a really great way for you to say, even though we're not doing academic focus, we can still do some things that are going to be enriching, helpful, and useful for you.
And something else that I like to do is, my kids are pretty standard in what they like, but at the beginning of the summer, we try to plan activities and things that are around what will serve them for the whole summer, right? So it's like, okay, is there a new meal you want to learn to make for lunch? So then that way we can spend the beginning of the summer teaching him how to do this, and then he's able to do that throughout the summer, make that meal consistently, right? So trying to think of things that we can set at the beginning that will serve us for the whole summer. So something else is like, I said the snack station, or having food accessible, making sure that everything they need to make their own meals is accessible if they're old enough to do that. Even something as simple as, if you want them to have more outside time, have a bucket with all the balls right by the door, have a space where their outside shoes are right there. So that way it's easier for them to go in and out, and it's not, Mom, where's my football? Where did I put this?
The
It's more on
systems.
them, the
Right.
systems, right?
Right. And I think it's so great, again, if you have a elementary age student or a high school student, it's okay to have expectations for them for the summer. You don't have to be rigid. You don't have to be like this is exactly how it goes, but
Right.
what's the overall goal? And asking your kids, what do you think would be a good use of your summertime? How would you like to continue to grow or learn or practice skills? And so I remember when I was growing up, I really wanted money. I really liked buying things. It was mostly candy and stuff, but I really wanted to buy things, get that cool t-shirt at the mall. So I did get a summer job, and it was really great for me to learn some accountability, some independence, and then also budgeting and money and finances. If you don't want your child to have a job, I know there's a lot of parents who say, you need to be focused on academics and we want to focus on some of those life skills. It may be like you have a new job at home. I know a lot of families that I work with, they may have, those pre-adolescent children ready for a little bit more responsibility. This is when they're learning how to walk the dog. This is when they're learning how to mow the lawn. And those things are really necessary and great things for them to either earn more money, more privileges, maybe there's an allowance. But the most important thing is skills and capability for when they are outside of the house, they have a little bit more know-how.
And I will say, reflecting back on my childhood and what I remember from summertime, besides like family trips and things like that, it really was the independence. Both of my parents worked out of the home, so I would just go ride my bike for miles and miles, all day, right? And go to the store and go buy some candy and do all these things and make my own lunch and plan my whole day. And so it was really that independence. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to instill and get my boys to enjoy and learn and grow over the summer.
Yeah. And I think it's really great. If you are a professional that doesn't have children, again, going back to those systems, I do work with a lot of educators. They're wonderful. I used to be a school counselor and working a lot with, young students. I used to be a private tutor. It's really important for you to practice some really good self-care and re-energizing yourself. So it may be, I'm going to go for a walk in the morning, or I'm going to make sure that I'm, decluttering things so that I kind of have a refreshed space and environment. I'm going to sleep in like some of the moms really need to do. But even, as adults, it's okay. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. every day. But also making sure you're going to sleep and getting rest. We don't want to be doom scrolling. We don't want to be like binge watching till 4 a.m. I have a nephew who's a college student. He's really good at binge watching. He's not so great at sleeping, but I'm trusting him, and his parents are trusting him to figure out that balance and that routine. But I do remember when he was growing up, there was expectations for a bedtime, so if you have adolescents or yourself, it's okay to say, you know what, I probably shouldn't be up until 2 a.m. Maybe let's make sure we're all in bed by midnight or 11 o'clock, or you can't sleep until 4 p.m. You really need to be up by at least noon, or let's be up before, and have breakfast when we wake up. So coming up with some self-accountability, how to like help yourself, like get some rest, make sure you're ready for the next school year, maybe reevaluate your space. So things sometimes get neglected as you're so busy during the school year. It can be really a great time just to reframe and reclaim.
And I think, going back to teenagers too, I also think it's helpful to say, weekdays, we're going to keep it like school, where it's like you're in bed at this time or it's closer to your bedtime. But the weekends is those times where you have more flexibility,
Right.
And I really think, I know I would have been receptive to it. My kids have been receptive, just that, again, the open communication and level setting those expectations. And most people can get on board with it. Again, most kids will.
Yeah, definitely. And I think modeling that too. So if I'm saying that we need to get bed earlier, if I have a teen who's like, "But you're staying up till 2 a.m. and sleeping until 4." Okay, let's all do this as a family, or we're keeping each other accountable. And I think role modeling is really great in any instance of things you want your child to learn about.
Another system I found that's really helpful for our family is making sure there's a drop zone too, because there are kids going to summer camps, and so they're going to be bringing home a bag of their stuff, or bags of stuff are going to be going out. And during the year, like as far as like swimwear or some of those outdoor activities and camp stuff, it does stay in a bin up high because I'm not accessing it. But then once the season comes around for summer, I transfer those out of the bin, and I usually do bags for each thing. So I have like a bag for swim, and a bag for this sport and a bag for this. So that way, whenever I'm going out the door, it's like I can just grab it and go, and I know what's in there. So that's been a really helpful system too.
That sounds wonderful. I will probably employ those systems this summer because we will be doing some camps and some, sports lessons and things with my little guy. But if you have systems that you put into place, or if you would like more information on systems, Jen is going to have a freebie in our social media.
Yes.
So if you're interested in an example, a template for you, and take this and adapt it, if you, want to adapt it for, a teenager, if you want to adapt it for yourself, I may be taking a copy and figuring out for me what that might look like. Let us know on Instagram, find our post of this podcast, and we'll get you a free copy of that.
Yeah, the information will be there on how you can access it. Again, we always talk about through the whole Reframe and Reclaim process in our book, everything is really tailored to you and your chapter of life. This is not rigid.
No.
Like, do what works for you and your family. This is just works for me. Take what you can use and leave the rest. It's all good. So we'll see you on Instagram to get you your freebie, and we'll see you soon on the next podcast.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. Please like and subscribe and share your comments below if you've enjoyed our episode. We love to hear from our listeners and would love to communicate with you.